Gentlemen, what can the younger generation expect from dating and relationships going forward, and how are they already making changes? And most of all, how will that affect those of us who, aren't the younger generation? My guest today is Cheryl Maida, and she is a matchmaker who surprisingly is getting younger and younger guys coming to her looking for a real relationship in a world of, fake social media situationships. Stay tuned. This is a good one.
Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scott McKay.
All right, gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. My name is Scott McKay, and I'm your host. And today we're going to talk about something that, it's never been talked about in the many years of us doing this show because it's really a relatively new development. So it's kind of exciting stuff. We're going to talk about whether Generation Z, the younger generation, is actually going to embrace kind of old school stuff like marriage, relationships. They're already having less casual sex than the generations that came before, like Generation X, Y, millennials. What's going on with that? Are we seeing things, or is there clear evidence that there is a change afoot? And what does that say about us as men? What does it say about women? What does it say about everybody in our society? With me today is a new friend of mine. She's very charming. You're going to love her. She's from Boca Raton, Florida. Her name is Cheryl Maida, and she is the team leader at matchmaking.com, which is a pretty important position. And she's going to join us today to talk about that. Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. The importance is, how is this next generation doing in terms of their relating and in terms of their dating? You're immersed in this like I am all day long.
Yes.
You're a professional matchmaker, which I would assume means that you work with people who are a little bit more mature and maybe have more means than your garden variety 20, 21-year-old. But I'm sure you have something to say on this. What are the trends you see?
Sure, absolutely. So I do have ages. Literally, I have clients that are anywhere from their 20s all the way through their 80s. But I have found that generation are looking for something real. They're not looking for hookups. What I have noticed, though, is they're waiting a little older. Like for me, I met my first husband. I was 19. We were married at 23. Now, not many 23-year-old girls are looking to get married, but are they looking for a serious relationship? Yes. A lot of them are going back to school. They have careers, but I see more and more men and women in that age bracket coming to us. I am shocked at how many women in their 20s are signing up with a matchmaker because they want something serious. So they're shying away from the apps and really looking towards matchmaking now, which is, of course, great for us.
Yeah, you hit upon something that's very important. Very recently, within the last couple of months of this podcast being recorded, I have declared dating apps dead.
Right.
I'm just not going to teach it anymore. And this is a shock to the system.
Correct.
For most of the people who have followed my work and, been fans of this podcast for years and years, because I met my wife on Match.com.
Oh, wow.
And I was very, very bullish on online dating for years and years and years. And I was teaching guys very successfully how to kind of beat the system and meet real, women and have real lasting relationships with them, or date around if they want to. But man, especially since COVID. I mean, the whole idea of an online dating app has always been fraught because it's taught us how to take a millisecond first impression and decide the fate of this person in my life, yay or nay,
right,
based on something very shallow.
Right.
And, in the case of Tinder and, Bumble and some of the others, it's always been a very brief amount of information they're given plus the picture. I mean, Hinge did a little bit better a job of that, but even now you're hearing me talk about Hinge in the past tense. They did a good job at that. Right. The balance sheets are falling off a cliff with these people. They're all going out of business. They can't retain their customers. People don't want to pay for this service anymore because we all feel like we've been had. We were tricked into this dopamine rush of collecting likes like we're on freaking Facebook or Twitter, and nobody's meeting each other in real life. And even when the beautiful people finally connect, they look at each other and go, "You're not who I expected to meet."
Right. Right.
So we had pickup artistry 20 years ago. That fell off a cliff 15 years ago. Nobody's doing that anymore. Women are all wise to the pickup artist tactics and lines and stuff. And now with online dating apps, dead, we got to find something else.
Right.
So you have matchmaking.
Correct.
Okay. You're having people come to you saying, hey, look, I'm too busy to go out and actually meet people and forge my own path here. So your service is on the rise. And I'm also advocating that the new normal is the old normal. You need to go out and meet people and be social.
Correct.
And so I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think that is not only correct, but it's also a prescient thing to say, because I think we're going to get more towards that old school way of looking things.
Right. And what's what's interesting is because when I started my business, it's almost 16 years ago. My competition really wasn't other matchmakers. It was the apps, because we were at the stage where people were embarrassed then to admit they were on it. Right. So now fast forward now, because of the enormous amount of apps, I mean, you name the category, there's an app for it. There's an app for people in fitness. There's an app if people that love vegetables. I mean, you name it, there's an app for everyone. But so many people have gotten catfished. So many people have gotten ghosted. Now with AI, I had someone present someone. They're like, what do you think of this gentleman? I'm like, oh my God, he's super good looking. I'm going on and on. They're like, yeah, it's AI. He's not even real. So people aren't trusting the apps. There's scam artists on there. So I think a lot of people are getting more frustrated than not. And they want, like you said, the old school way of meeting someone through a friend. And that's what I call myself. A matchmaker is like a friend introducing two people. Literally, that's what we do.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah. In the true sense of the word. I'll tell you, a lot of this stuff didn't work. The hookup culture, everybody loves sex, but it's kind of empty. And when people feel like, well, this is just, again, too fraught. I mean, what if a woman revokes her consent the morning after this drunken tryst that we had the night before, where we didn't even know each other? What about STDs? What about pregnancy? What about this person being a psycho bunny of some sort who comes back and tries to take me for everything? It's just, it was the way I've looked at it is the get off just isn't worth the letdown.
Right. No, and you're right.
That's my way of putting it.
Right. You're absolutely right about that. I think more people are not interested anymore in these one-night stands. They're not interested in speaking. You know what it is? Everyone becomes pen pals on these apps. And I always explain that to people.
If that.
If you're lucky, right? One guy might be going out with a girl on a Friday night, but I promise you, he's going home and responding to, 200 other women. So that's the part. People have lost trust with the apps. And like you said, when Tinder just came out, that was on fire because it was known as the hookup site. Everyone was on there. And then, as you said, from STDs, from pregnancies, of course, as we discussed back in the 80s, people were scared then of AIDS. People are much more cautious today. They are much smarter than they would with all the new technology and everything. And I think people are really shying away from the apps. And that's why this younger generation are like, wait, where am I going to meet someone? They're over the apps already. And
okay. Well, hold on. We've discussed that. So let's move on from that, because there's something very important you just said that I think we should focus on. And that's that in the 80s, people were dying of AIDS.
Right.
So we were being kind of withheld from having the casual sex we were dreaming about because we had a choice. Right. Screw a bunch of chicks or die.
Right.
At least that's what Anthony Fauci and the CDC were telling us. Right. Truth be told, if you're having heterosexual sex with a woman, as opposed to men having sex with men, your chances of having, any chance of getting HIV at all were very, very small, regardless of what Oprah was fear-mongering about on her show. And, that's why you, to this day, don't know a whole lot of heterosexual people who have died of AIDS.
Right.
Unless, they were needle sharers or, something like that. the deal nowadays is it's not like we're being compelled by some fear from having this hookup sex. It's just all the promises made by so much over the course of the past few decades never came to fruition.
Right.
I mean, the apps did not deliver on the promise,
Right.
right? Being locked down solito for a couple of years in your own home during COVID, let alone your studio apartment, and being separated from everybody else and being told, hey, well, we got porn for that. That didn't cut it either.
Right. Right.
Men have tried saying, well, I don't like women because they don't like me. I can't make attraction happen. Therefore, I'm just going to go get an AI girlfriend. And then this AI girlfriend doesn't have a soul, and that doesn't cut it either. So people are finally waking up and going, hey, you know what? I'm sick of what the media is trying to tell us. I'm sick of there being some sort of socio-political agenda that's trying to tell me what to do, who to be in love with, who to be attracted to. People have become very wise to this division created between men and women when we're obviously designed to be in partnership with each other. I mean, even sexually, men, women get together, make babies. Without babies, we don't have a future as a human race.
Right.
People are going, wait a minute, you know what? We've been swindled. And so nowadays you're starting to get young women, even if they are smart college graduates, going, it might actually be okay for me to be a stay-at-home mom and build a family.
Right.
And have a side hustle and do that. It's not an affront against my femininity to be a mom.
Right.
I want to be a mom because it's just too many 38-year-old women woke up and went, good God, man, I've spent my entire life climbing the corporate ladder. It's been empty, and now I've got to hurry up and make a family. Too many guys said, I want to live like Hugh Hefner and be a playboy my whole life and just bag a bunch of chicks. And then they wake up age 45 and go, I never played catch with my son.
Right.
Maybe I'd like grandkids someday. Maybe I'd like to have people of significance around me instead of all this empty space.
Right.
And it's a shame almost. It is a shame, Cheryl, that we had to go through a couple generations of trial and error there, only for Generation Z to finally smarten up. I think it's very real.
Right. It is. And I see it. I see it for myself. And I love it because the more men we are getting, let's say in their low 30s now, which is young for matchmaking, our normal age range, I would say the average age range, 50s and 60s, usually used to be divorcees, maybe widowers who are upper 60s, 70s. Now we're seeing a whole slew of clients in their 30s. They're like, we don't want to waste time. The apps are about the quantity. It's not the quality. If you want to go through and have a date every Friday or have a girl 5 days a week, go to the apps. But a lot of these younger generation, they're not doing that anymore.
But importantly, the quantity isn't even there anymore.
Well, it's the quantity is there, but the quality is not even good on there.
Well, the report I'm getting from perfectly good, attractive people who are very dateable is they're not even meeting anybody.
They're not even meeting anybody.
Everybody's just chasing their tail, spoiled for choice. The women are all saying, oh my goodness, I got 200 likes. I'm more popular than I ever thought I was. But meanwhile, all these guys are swiping right on anything that wears a skirt.
Right.
And all these women feel chosen by their dream guy. So they pick which two guys they want to write back. They write them back and hear crickets because those two guys went to someone who was a better choice for them, or they didn't hear back from anybody they really wanted to hear back from. So this, vortex of doom continues. Now, I'm hearing from a lot of people who are getting very little joy at all.
Right.
From dating
Well, it
apps.
becomes a job. It becomes a job, these apps. And know what's so interesting? So many people think that, there's a very big misconception with matchmaking. Oh, the misfits of the world must go to a matchmaker. I don't need the help. I get all the girls I want. And it's so interesting. If anyone saw a bulletin board of my last 15 years as a matchmaker and every client, people would not believe me. Super successful, super handsome gentlemen, men that do perfectly fine on their own. They're not finding what they want. They don't want to go go home and have another job of going on the apps. And then you have to respond to 500 people. Who's responding back to you? You make a date. The date doesn't happen. It has become so exhausting, mentally and emotionally exhausting, that I think people are just shying away from them. And as we said, at a younger age now, they don't want to deal with that. We've done it. We've all tried it, our generation. And people are just really shying away from the apps. They really are, if they're looking for something real.
Yeah, it's not lonely, desperate people. It's people who are too
No.
busy and have to outsource this.
Correct.
Because it is. It's like a full-time job trying to find someone who's right for me. If I can, for lack of a better way to put this sounds a little raw, but I mean, if I can punch everything I'm about into an algorithm, at least I got a fighting chance of finding someone who's going to match up with me in the important ways,
Right.
how I vote, what God we pray to, what we have for dinner, how we believe about parenting or about travel, how we spend money, all those things I'm sure are in your, how you build a database around the people you're matching up.
Correct.
Everybody I know who's in matchmaking is in high-end matchmaking, and what they're doing is they're charging a premium to guys who are too busy running their thing to have time for this thing.
Correct. And the example I always give about matchmaking is it's equivalent to getting a realtor to sell your home. You can sell your home on your own, but guess what? The realtors can have the connections, and that's what she's doing all day. And account it with your taxes. You can learn to do your taxes on your own. What do? You hire a professional in the field. So what's more important than your love life? And the busy, successful gentlemen that know how to delegate exactly what's important to them are going to matchmaking. They really are. And a lot of these men are younger, being more successful at very young ages, and they're coming to us. And it's
obviously, you don't hire a matchmaker for a hookup.
No, absolutely
You're looking
not.
for a match.
Exactly. And I will say, I've had gentlemen, and it's okay. Sometimes they don't know. The first question out of their mouth will be like, okay, do I have a date every week? Is that how this works? And do you know what my answer is? And I don't judge anyone. If you were looking for that, you came to the wrong place. Go to the apps. That is not
Or go
what
to
we
It's
do.
Just Lunch and fail that way.
Right.
It's Just Lunch has never liked me.
Why
They
do
didn't
you-
like me then. They don't like me now because I was a threat before, because I was very pro dating apps and dating sites, which is their enemy. And nowadays I'm very pro go out, be social, and see who you connect with, which of
Right.
course is still not very friendly to them. I
Right.
don't know. Are they still even in business? I don't think
They
I've heard of
are.
that.
They are still in business. Let's just say they are. They are. I've heard a lot of things about them, and what you're saying I've heard, and but I think they're still around.
I have a guy in Columbus, Ohio, and he hired me because he tried It's Just Lunch and they set him up with a prostitute.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, she was a prostitute for a living, but she's looking for her guy. And he
Right.
went back to her and said, I could have paid a lot less
To
for a
get
date
back.
with her than what I paid you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that to me was kind of the last straw.
You do have to be careful, because I've heard stories that there are matchmakers that will, sign a client up and then, believe it or not, pay women to go out with them, not for prostitution, but when in doubt, they're like, oh gosh, I have to find someone. So you do have to be very careful. You have to do your due diligence when you do speak to a matchmaker, and really interview the matchmaker as well. That's what I always tell people.
There used to be an introduction service called Together. You remember them?
I actually don't know that one.
It was called Together Dating Service. And back in the stone age of me being a dating coach, I was doing all the research I could on everything out there. And I actually hadn't met my wife yet. So I took them up on a meeting.
Okay.
Okay. And I had this lady sit in front of me, chain smoking cigarettes with a gravelly voice, like this. And she told me that I needed to lower my standards if I was going to meet any women. Because I wasn't a multimillionaire. I was too short. I'm not very tall, et cetera, et cetera. And I cared about looks too much. You shouldn't care about looks at all. And as a brief aside there, I actually care about the whole package.
Right.
I want the person I want in general. I don't want to compromise, because I feel like the only thing worse than settling for someone is being settled for. That's humiliating.
Right. Right.
And my definition of who's sweet, beautiful, and gorgeous is mine. I'm not looking for a 5'10" supermodel. I'm looking for, well, my wife. And for real, my wife is like my dream woman.
Wow.
And I said to her, I don't think I'm going to be needing your service. And she's like, well, why? And I said, well, I'm currently dating 5 different women I met online, and they're all gorgeous, and none of them think I'm too short, and none of them think I'm too poor.
Right.
So I don't know why I would lower my standards to hire you and spend money on you. And she just basically gave me one of those, well, I don't know if you want to do that, kind of one of those things that people from the East Coast do where they kind of bat their eyelashes and kind of mumble to the side until they're done.
Hysterical. It's not about lowering your standards.
No.
That's not a very intelligent thing to say at all. It's about making your expectations realistic. That's what I say, because we all have a checklist, and what's important to you might not be important to the guy over there. But at the end of the day, the matchmaker has to make you happy. So what I would tell my client is you are allowed to have your standards. I would never tell you to lower them. But what I would tell you is let's put them in order. Out of your 10 things that you're looking for, what's the most important? And I explain this to everyone. If you're looking to check off all 10 things, most likely this is why you're single. But if you could really decompartmentalize and say to yourself, you know what, this and this is much more important, and actually put them in order, you'll see it opens up a whole new world to you. So it's not about lowering standards. I don't believe in that. You have standards, wonderful. You should have standards, and don't settle, because that in the long run, you will not be happy. But it is about making a smart decision, seeing what is the most important thing to you, and then moving forward that way. Just making your expectations realistic. That's all I say to everyone.
Well, I think there's another dimension to that, and that's the human dimension.
Right.
We can do all the logistical matching we want. And I'm not going to say that it's unimportant to do that, because if we agree on major factors of long-term compatibility, and again, I have to issue the disclaimer. I understand people of different religions and different voting blocks can get married and be happy. But if we agree in terms of what we're basing our life on, what our future goals look like, do we want kids? Do we not want kids? How do we spend money? How do we go on vacation? Who do we pray to? Who do we vote for? That's important. I think people need to match up on that. But, I hear these horror stories about women who are gold diggers in New York City trying to screen a bunch of guys who they think are millionaires, and they come with a checklist of 100 things and just weaponize this thing against this guy as soon as he walks in the door.
Right. You would be amazed, though. You'd be surprised. Like politically, I would say a few years ago, right? It was so important. It was practically one of the most important questions I could ask. And it's funny, 15 years ago, I never even asked it. Today,
Yes.
I do have a lot of people that will say to me, and which I love this answer. For an example, I'm a Republican. If someone is a Democrat, that is fine if they're liberal, as long as they're not diehard liberal, And so I'll hear that. But when we have like a diehard liberal, they'll be like, I don't want a Trumpster. I'm not interested. So usually,
Exactly.
and that goes along with religion also.
Mhm.
If there's someone very religious, most likely they're looking to stay in their religion.
Yes.
But if someone is like, for an example, I'm Jewish. I celebrate Christmas. I love Christmas. I'm not religious. But if someone is Jewish and they are very religious, well, guess what? They're going to look for someone in that religion. So there are, everyone has what is the most important thing to them. But politically, it's very interesting. That has kind of fallen off. People don't really stress that as much.
Well, again, it didn't deliver on the promise.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is, no matter what you see on TV, and yes, you're going to see all these angry people carrying a torch on Blue Sky and on Truth Social that, the other side is a bunch of Nazis. I mean, you have a bunch of anti-Semites calling the other side a bunch of Nazis.
Right.
Everybody, once again, we're waking up to this. We're being wise to this.
Right.
Of all the celebrities who are saying, oh my God, Trump is horrible. He's a dictator. Things are even worse than we thought they'd be. Sarah Silverman was saying that not too long ago on her podcast.
I saw that.
Like what? I mean, I have a bunch of countries that aren't at war anymore. My price of eggs went down. My price of gas went down. I don't see things worse than they were 4 or 5 months, except now I know that the guy in office is actually running things instead of God knows who. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do I think that the Republicans are doing too much lawfare trying to get the other side after they promised they wouldn't? Do I think the Epstein thing is a mess? Yes, I do. But ultimately, you know what? None of that affects me.
Right.
That doesn't affect my life.
Right.
You know, it's not my kitchen table issues. Right.
Right.
So when I was a kid, I don't know how old you are. I'm assuming you're significantly younger than I am. When I was in high school in the 80s during the Reagan administration, I don't remember ever talking about politics at all with any of my peers ever. We were out surfing and BMXing and skateboarding and trying to make out with girls behind, the dumpsters at school when nobody was like, that's what we were doing.
Right. I think a lot has to do with the fact that when we were younger also, what did we have? TV and radio. That's it.
You
Now
bet.
it's Instagram, it's TikTok, it's everywhere you look.
24-hour cycle.
24 hours, right? You can't get away from it. You
Right.
go to a restaurant, it's on the TV. So that's the issue today. And that's why that's another thing that actually can come between people when dating. But once again, depending on the individual. Do I have some diehard Republicans? Oh God, yes. Do I have some men that are like, do not set me up with a liberal? I do. But for the most part, I would say that really kind of fell off a little. It's not as important as it was like 5
I
years
agree.
ago. Yeah.
But I think that's symptomatic of a larger movement in society.
Yes.
I think once again, the promise failed.
Right.
Get into your echo chamber. Let's hate a whole bunch of people. Let's be on this team. Let's make politics our religion.
Correct.
Let's make feminism or men going their own way our religion. And that God won't save you.
Right.
There's no hope there,
Right.
let alone eternal hope. There's not even any temporal hope there. So what you've got is a bunch of people, especially youngins, okay? Now, this generation has never known a day in their life without a smartphone.
Correct. Right.
They're going, why am I letting this thing rule my life?
Right.
I mean, it seems like some of the stories I hear, some of the movies I see, man, that was a lot more romantic. It seems like men and women got along, and it seems like that's the way it always was. I think I want to see what that's like. I mean, the great rebellion for this generation, ironically, is against all this technology
Right.
to go old school.
Right. And just think about this also, that they see a lot of parents now getting divorced. For my kids, I have 3 boys, 19, 21, and 24. I don't know if they have any friend, parent who are still together. I find that to be so sad. And I really do. And I blame the technology today. I blame the access to so many people from the dating apps. And then how about this? Forget about the dating apps. Facebook alone. You want to look up your ex-girlfriend from high school? You absolutely can find her. So I think that generation sees all that, and they're learning from it. They're being smarter about their dating right now. I really do. And for matchmakers, it's just better for us. People want to find real. They really do. They want to settle down. They don't want to date 50 people. They would love to find the love of their life as early as they can.
Yeah. Let's go back to that poor lady who's trying to sort out 100 check boxes in front of some guy in New York City for drinks. You know what the crazy part is? She can checklist her brains out, but ultimately, the guy who does it for her, where the chemistry is and where that's backed by real actual compatibility, that guy's going to surprise the hell out of her. He's
Right.
going to come out of nowhere because we're humans.
Right.
All of my own blathering about my type and what she looks like and what she's about and what I really like. I met so many women who just completely destroyed, that pattern. They
Right.
broke that mold, and I thought they were hot, and I
Right.
really enjoyed them.
Right.
And that's because I've opened myself up to connecting with a human rather than preconceiving a selfish set of boxes and playing God, really,
Right.
saying, okay, here's the person I expect to show up.
Right.
I've joked about how, when I met my wife, it was like I filled out a requisition to God and handed it to him, and he delivered my product. And I think that's really cute and romantic, and it makes my wife giggle. But that's not reasonable,
right.
because human beings will surprise you. And I think the younger generation is all here for that surprise.
Right.
It's fun. It's more exciting. The chemistry is better. It's a spark because it's not something that's preordained by what social media told us to do. And now that we've all exercised our social muscles again, Cheryl, and we're not rusty because we were locked down by COVID, and we're out there being social again. You know what we're realizing? We're not all racist. We're not all sexist.
Right.
We're not all angry. Most of us aren't angry. As a matter of fact, it may seem like the whole world is angry because it's the angry people who grab the mic and complain and bitch about things. You can have 200 people show up at a protest in New York City, but there's also 7,999,800 people who didn't show up because they're like, not my monkey, not my circus.
Right.
So if we go out and we're social, we stop doom scrolling, even when we're sitting around our friends in real time, and we start connecting with people again, we're going to realize, hey, these people are not enemies. We're all trying to live our best life and get along, and it's actually kind of nice.
It is. And I say this to everyone, that for people that are single, you can meet your husband or wife walking into a Starbucks, walking into a supermarket. I say this to everyone. If you
Look alive out there.
Exactly. If you were looking for a job, if you sit home on the couch, no job is coming knocking on your door saying, hey, I heard you're unemployed. It doesn't happen. And it's the same thing with being single. Let people know. Tell more friends. When you go out, I always say eye contact's the best. Single people give excellent eye contact. It's like this little it's like this little message, when you're looking in someone like, yeah, I'm available. Are you? And I'm telling you, the more you go out and you just make yourself known, whether or not, and I always say, go to do what you enjoy to do. Go to a gym. If you could find someone where you tend to have a hobby, the gym, the golf course, let's say you love library, go sit at the bookstore and read a book. There are so many single people out there. They're not just sitting on the app scrolling all day. They're really not.
I just say talk to everybody. Be social.
You should. And that's nice. That's great.
I mean, you're never going to know. I mean, I don't even care if they're single or not.
Well, no, you're married.
Well, I don't actually in that respect, but you have no way of knowing this, but I actually take guys out in field and immerse them in talking to women all weekend long with my wife's blessing.
Of course.
Often with my wife there.
So you're the wingman.
Well, I'm a coach, and I'm also an in-field coach. I teach guys how to meet women in field. When the guys come to me, they're guys who want to get better at approaching women, attracting them, creating chemistry, meeting them. That's why they're here usually.
Right.
And it isn't about hitting on women and trying to get them in bed. It's about making female human beings adore you.
Correct.
Because then it doesn't matter if I'm single, whether they're single. Almost nobody will talk to strangers anymore.
Right.
Like they'll look at you like strange, but then you go, it's okay, I'm not going to hurt you. And they go, oh, okay. Not literally do you say that, but it's like there's a pattern interrupt when someone talks to you and you don't know who they are.
Right.
And then they have to kind of settle into, this will be all right. And then I teach guys how to be warm and light instead of cold and stoic, with this duck face. And women are generally adorable and friendly and sweet. Yeah, some of them are going to have boyfriends. Some of them won't have boyfriends, but how are you going to know the difference if you're never social with anybody?
And if you think about it, even if you do end up approaching a woman who has a boyfriend or is married, everybody knows at least one single person.
And we've seen it happen.
It's about networking yourself, putting yourself out there. A married woman could be like, listen, I'm so sorry I'm married, but you are so adorable. Oh my God, my best friend in the world is single. And that's how you connect people. Think about what networking is, from business to relationships, right? Even to friendships, right? It's all about networking. And as you said, being the friendly one, being outgoing, being optimistic. That's huge. Women do not like men who are not optimistic, cocky. No. Confidence, yes. There's a big difference between cocky and confident. Confident and secure goes a very long way with women. And I'm telling you, you can, people can have many more connections on their own if they just thought about that and did what you said.
Yeah. When guys meet 10 women in a row, they may not have met 10 women in the last 10 years. Okay. But when they meet 10 women in a row on a Friday morning while I'm there, and it all goes great, and it's like, wow, that wasn't so scary. The 11th one is easy.
Right.
So after 100 of them over the course of a weekend, these guys get on a plane and go home, and they're a machine.
Right.
They understand how women want to feel safe and comfortable, how charm and what I call warm levity go a long way. And girls just want to have fun. And if you're helping them enjoy themselves, the next thing you know, they're glad you showed up and talked to them. And either the flirting's going to start or the flirting's not going to go anywhere because she's taken. I talk to women all day long, and I talk to women like women all day long.
Right.
But I'm not going anywhere. I love my wife. My wife's adorable. I never let it get sexual. But, God help me, I love female human beings. And I think, you know what? This might be a great way to conclude this podcast, is to talk about how people somehow have been driven away from liking the gender they're trying to attract.
Right. It's interesting. Right. And it's not about, like you said, going to bed with them that night. It's about getting to know someone. And when women find a man is interested in who they are, not what they're wearing, not how short their skirt is or how skinny their legs are.
Or just likes women in general instead of hating the bitches, but he's horny. That's not going to get anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. And sometimes, you have men, all women are gold diggers. That is so not true.
And it's not gender specific, okay?
Right.
You have women who say, oh, all men are jerks. They only want one thing and they're violent.
And
masculinity is toxic. Can you find me a husband? The answer is no.
As soon as a woman has not every woman, remember, it's not everyone, but sometimes when a woman has a bad divorce, a bad breakup, all guys are jerks, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now let's think about that sentence. Of course they're not. You had a bad experience, but this is what I always go by, and it seems to work for a lot of people, men and women. People come into your lives for a reason. And I say they come into your lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And if you could go back and think of maybe people that you dated that you thought they were going to be the one, but you broke up, most likely they served a purpose at that time in your life. And when I explain that to people, even from my own self, people always seem to be like, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, you're right. And this person was a season. Maybe it was around the holidays. Maybe it was a summer love, a reason. Maybe you were going through something at work, a health issue. And then, of course, the lifetime people are the ones we end up marrying, or we obviously are in a very serious relationship with.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Again, you have no way of knowing this. You and I are just getting to know each other here. But I would have every right to be one of the men going their own way. A red-pilled manosphere guy who just angry with women. Just avoid them. You're an idiot. You're a fool if you even think about having a long-term relationship with a female. Because my first wife was batshit crazy, and she ruined my life, took everything, estranged me from my daughter, and was generally awful, and portrayed herself completely differently when we were dating.
Right.
I have every right to feel that way.
Right.
But A, I'm not a victim.
Right.
Even though everybody told me there's nothing I could have done to prevent that divorce, you were a great father, a great husband. I said, no, you know what? I could do better, and I'm going to work on myself for me.
Right.
And I want to not make that mistake again.
Right.
And the next thing you know, I'm attracting sane women who are sweet, dare I say, more beautiful. And I have not had one day with my lovely wife of 18 years now that was like any day I ever had with my first wife.
Right.
Now, I could say, man, I wasted all that time from age 28 to 35 with that, that awful woman. But, I wouldn't be the dating coach I am today.
And you wouldn't be married.
One of my, right, exactly. If every one of my dating experiences would have been just unbelievable and perfect.
I absolutely agree with you. And you want to hear something very interesting, and I'll tell you quickly. My first husband, great guy. We have 3 kids together. We were together for 24 years. My husband now, we're married, I think it's 8 years. He doesn't have kids, never wanted kids. So let's just reverse that. If I met my husband now 20 years ago, I would have never married him. So everyone comes into your life at different stages, and I believe for the right reasons. And remember, if you didn't have your first wife, unfortunately with the experience you had, your second wife was waiting for you, but at this time, or actually I should say 18 years ago.
Well,
right?
She was too busy with her own schizophrenic husband.
There you go. There you go. You both needed that time to get out of it.
But yeah, not to be overlooked, I can relate to so many guys and what they're going through, especially when they're being gaslit into thinking that they're the problem.
Right.
And it has made me a much more empathetic and effective coach not to have had a perfect path in life. Right. I understand pain. I can realize it. Also, as a little bit of a wounded warrior myself. I don't come off as perfect and douchey to these guys as if I've got all the answers.
Right. And know what I learned, Scott? Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. No one gets through life just smooth sailing. Because if
Yeah.
someone says they do, most likely they're lying. We all learn and you have to move forward in a positive direction. And that's
true.
the way I look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. You know what? I am cheering you on, younger
you're so
generation.
sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you too, of course.
Yeah.
But I am cheering on the younger generation.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
And, you guys, if you've been jaded out there, if you're our age, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 60s, 70s, and you've gotten jaded, look at what this younger generation is up against. The onslaught of media giving them an anti-family message. You don't need women. Women, you don't need men. Why don't you just go non-binary and be pansexual and just enjoy yourself and, not have to worry about kids or family or just live for yourself your whole life. Men and women are adversaries. They're not partners. Look at the younger generation just saying no to that.
Right.
I'm giving them the Dikembe Mutombo finger. Nope, ain't going to happen. It's against all odds, Cheryl, that they're turning this direction, isn't it? But they are, because you know what? In the end, humanity will always win.
Yep. I absolutely agree with you.
Hopefully against AI as well. All right. Her name is Cheryl Maida. She's the team leader at matchmaking.com. She's a 15-year veteran matchmaker from Boca Raton, Florida. And when you go to mountaintoppodcast.com/Cheryl, Cheryl, they would just call you Cheryl, where I come from in Baltimore. You'd be Cheryl.
That's
like
fine.
short for
I
Shirley.
answer to that.
Yeah. When they go to mountaintoppodcast.com/Cheryl, what will they find? It'll be matchmaking.com, I'm sure. What will they find there?
Yes. So you'll be able to see our site and exactly what our process is, a lot of questions and answers for you. And if you're interested in joining, as I said, the men are our clients. Women are always free. So you go to www.matchmaking.com, fill out a profile, and the appropriate person will be calling you.
I disagree with you wholeheartedly that women are always free. But I think for business
How's
purposes,
this?
is
Women
what you're
are
talking
free in the matchmaking industry for what we do. That's what I meant to say.
In other words, you're saying, y'all come. We got room for the ladies. Right? The guys pay for the bill on the date, as usual.
Well, women are free to join our services because the men are our clients. So therefore, we were able to gather and really recruit so many women because a lot of the women we wanted wouldn't pay, didn't want to pay, but
Wouldn't pay.
we do a lot of screening. So I will tell you right now, we do not take every woman that joins. I will not take any random woman off the street just because she's single. I will not do that.
And that lady in New York with the check boxes, heck with her.
That's what I'm saying. So we have quality women, intelligent women, and women that all have professions and can financially take care of themselves. That's very important to know.
I'm pretty sure my ex-wife isn't one of your ladies on your database. Yeah. Wonderful. A lot of fun. Thank you, Cheryl, for joining us today.
You're so welcome.
This has been a great
Thank you
conversation.
for having me.
Yes, absolutely.
It was fun, Scott.
Yeah. And if this whole, I guess, trend progresses, let's have you on and see how it's going in a couple of years.
That sounds great. That sounds awesome. Okay.
And gentlemen, if you want to visit mountaintoppodcast.com, go there, sign up for my newsletter. It is free. It comes to you every day. It's fluff free. And that's there for you at mountaintoppodcast.com. Also join us on Twitter, on Substack. This podcast is on video at YouTube if you're listening along. And of course, if you haven't written me in a while or you haven't gotten on my telephone, please make sure to do that. I'm exactly who you think I'm going to be. We can talk for free for 25 minutes. And if you haven't visited our sponsors, Jocko Willink's company, Origin in Maine, the Keyport, and also Hero Soap. Make sure you do business with those guys. You will not be sorry. And that and more is all there for you at mountaintoppodcast.com. And until I talk to you again real soon, this is Scott McKay from X&Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X&Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X and Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.